Welcome to Health Oddity, the show that strips away the jargon and hype surrounding all things health and fitness to help you live a long, strong and energetic life. Lining up at the bar this week, here's Peter Lant, Paul Bassett and James St. Pierre.
Right, we are recording.
Welcome to Health Oddity Podcast, episode 20. Please welcome the usual suspects. We've got Peter Lant. How are you doing, Peter?
I'm all right. How are you?
I'm not bad. I'm feeling pretty good today.
I'm glad to hear it.
And we've also got James St. Pierre. How are you doing, James?
I'm very good. I'm currently sat outside in about 1 degree under a blanket and with a woolly hat on, but I'm refreshed.
I would say you're getting some vitamin D, but you're not really because you're fully covered up, aren't you? you want to do one of these. You want to do one of these from your hot tub, mate. You want to get in your hot tub and do it. That'd be great.
Fair, James always seems to have really good methods of relaxation. You know, as much as there's a lot of hard work on your Instagram, there's always a beer, a hot tub, a movie, something like that. I feel like lack in that, you know.
Balance. Yeah.
I think every man's shares have gone down, haven't they, since James has stopped going? Since they've
they've shot, haven't they? They're shot at the moment.
Anyway, so back to the podcast. So episode 20. Please remember that if you do regularly listen to this podcast, then you can subscribe, Stitcher, Spotify, iTunes, you know, your usual things, and that really helps us out because it just puts us up the rankings, and then other people can discover the podcast. So today we're 2 weeks into New Year, and we've already discussed New Year's resolutions. You know, as we come into a new year, many people are thinking about what 2021 is going to bring. 2021, we hope, is going to have a different path to, say, 2020. We're already in the third lockdown in the UK. This is kind of sprung on us. I mean, we all kind of felt it was coming, but you know, within 1 day we were back into a full lockdown, and we think that may continue at least until mid-Feb, perhaps even to March. But most of you are still going to have these aspirations to make changes, and it's going to be a little bit different this year. Things that we did last year, I'm gonna kind of pan out the way that we expect. We can't go into gyms. Pretty much the whole of the UK is in a position now where all gyms are closed. I believe it is. So what we wanted to do today is take the next step from the New Year, from the New Year's resolutions to this concept of New Year, New You, and very much the marketing response from the wellness industry, the health industry, to some degree, it's the entertainment industry, to discuss those aspects of what's actually put in front of the consumer. So you guys as clients of trainers or clients of gyms, or someone who's just looking to make a change in terms of your health, there's going to be this huge plethora of diets, techniques, such as tools, such as should I buy a kettlebell? Should I invest in some dumbbells? Should I buy these pills? Should I try that? Should I try this? What's this trainer saying? Is this video better than that? You know, there's this huge industry, and particularly this time of year where we're all feeling a bit maybe flabby around the waist after Christmas. We're feeling a bit lethargic from the end of last year. We want to make a change. We're motivated. We're a captive audience, and there's a lot of people vying for your attention. We're in the same position. For us, traditionally January, it's a fitness business. I want to make the most of that because I've got people wanting to take action. We all talk about action as fitness trainers, but we've also got to grab your attention. And if we can grab your attention, we can get you, then you'll hopefully stick with us and we can take you towards where you want to be. What we hope as trainers is that what we put in front of you is something that you can trust, that something that's well thought out and something that's going to work. But everyone's going to say that. You know, you're hearing it from me as well. Whatever you work with me, you're going to get the result you want, or we're going to try our best to find the route to success we can with all its kind of challenges and obstacles. But why should you trust me over someone else that you've seen in the media? what makes a TV program worth watching and worth taking in, and really, what can you do with all this information? Because I get confused. I've certainly been in a position where I don't really know where to turn, what to do. I've bought the magazines in the past. I've tried loads of diets. I've succeeded on certain things, failed on other things. I swear my journey would have been much faster if I had better guidance. So who are those guides? Why should you trust them? So today I wanted to kind of throw it out there. It's a general conversation. We haven't got a guest. We wanted to really discuss this because I think it's important to me. I've seen some things in media recently that annoyed me on their perspective. We don't have to go into too much detail what they are today, but there's certain things which I feel are misleading. And that's what kind of got me thinking about, well, how, we've got people's trust, and what we do with that trust is very important because it can be exploited in the wrong way, and knowingly or unknowingly, depending on the skill of the practitioner. So, James, what are you facing from your clients at the moment, and what are their goals? I mean, are they demanding certain things from you? Are you noticing certain things about the industry this year?
Well, for me personally, what I've found is it's been a decision. It's been a kind of a based around, I suppose, what's going on, and we're just going into a new lockdown and things like that. Effectively, I'm not looking to attract any new people throughout January this year at all. I'm just looking to kind of batten down the hatches and look after my existing membership, really. So that changes things in a way, which is quite nice. I've taken the pressure off, needing to market externally and that sort of thing. And it's really allowed me for the first time to really focus on the kind of mindset and behavior stuff that my members are going through at the moment, especially being in lockdown. And people have said, I've spoke to people recently where, when we first went in sort of maybe last March, April, May, it was beautiful spring and summer, wasn't it? And the weather was glorious. And this time it feels very different being in January, and it's a lovely day. I mean, I'm sat outside today, but it's been cold and wet and windy and not particularly nice. So, what I'm really conscious of is this, you mentioned it in your introduction, this new year, new you cliche that kind of gets rolled out every single January. And you see it in shops and supermarkets where they're trying to sell certain products or shakes or, whatever, diet books and DVDs and things like that. You see it on like you say, the TV scheduling and that sort of thing. And what I spoke to my members about was this idea, because I saw a lot of it at the end of last year, at the end of 2020, which was obviously a very strange year, and cliche again, unprecedented year for everyone. And it was kind of like, well, let's say goodbye. People were almost like rushing to get to the end of 2020. And then they were saying, well, bring on 2021. That's going to be different. That's going to be better. And there was this kind of idea that just by flicking over at midnight on the 31st of December 2020, to the 1st of January 2021, somehow everything was going to change. And in reality, obviously, as we know, nothing did and nothing has. It's because unless people change and make decisions and do things themselves, just going into a new year has never done anything for anyone. So what I've done is actually created like a little group within my members where we're really just trying to get really mindful in January. I mean, everyone's got notebooks and journals, and we're kind of setting ourselves I encourage people to set themselves a theme for the year, or certainly a theme for the first quarter of the year. And then maybe think about some goals and think about some habits and some daily actions, and just keeping it really low key and just becoming mindful of the way that we're living and setting goals that are very specific to each individual. So I've not prescribed anything. I've not kind of said, this is a challenge. We're all going to walk 10,000 steps a day, or we're all going to drink 2 liters of water. People have set themselves their own little challenges or their own goals, and we're kind of working towards it. And in a way, it's been really, really nice, because it's really stripped things right back to basics. And it's really removed any hype, any kind of, any sales, because I'm not selling anything. It's just looking after the people I've already got. And I think that's the main thing for people to be aware of. Anything that sounds too good to be true and that promises quick results and you know, it usually, well, it always is, you know, not usually is, it always is, you know. So all this, you know, 7-day fat blast, or drop a dress size in 14 days, or, you know, 21 days to turn your life around. You know it's not going to work. But like you mentioned in your intro, it's getting people when they're low. It's getting people when they're motivated to act, to take action, but they're feeling very low maybe themselves. They're not feeling particularly good about themselves. And it's so
but
that
people,
yeah.
I mean, you've got the existing client base, and I know at the same time they're still not immune, even though they're working with you and they've locked in with a trustworthy source of information and they have a relationship with you. Is anyone coming to you with kind of having been influenced by the stuff outside? So you try and create an environment where you're putting in front of them really good quality information, but then you're contending, you're facing off against the media machine and all that, which may be suggesting fat loss pills, diets that are quite ridiculous. And are any of your clients kind of coming to you with kind of crazy goals or anything like that, or been influenced, or are they?
I'd honestly, I'd have to say no, not yet. Because a lot of our members have been with us for a long time, and because they know me, and because I kind of do these little videos every day and we talk about things very sensibly, I think they're kind of, the people I'm talking to now are kind of fairly, you know, common sense, and know that, you know, like I said, things that purport to be fast and amazing never are, you know. So I've not had that myself, but I, you know, it's out there without a shadow of a doubt. You know, people will be. Mr. Peter Lamp wants to jump in.
And how long has it taken for you to get those people to realize that? This is the thing.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think it's because people see me talking day in, day out, and doing things day in, day out, and really, I always for years and years have, like I know that the three of us have been kind of pushing this message of, you know, master the basics, you know, be patient, you know, this whole Rome wasn't built in a day, you know, you've got to, you know, small daily habits, daily actions, you know, that sort of thing.
Well, it takes time to build a culture, doesn't it? Cultures don't happen overnight. And the thing is what the New Year resolution and marketing machine often does is trying to impose change very quickly. The thing is, it only happens kind of once a year in a way, you know, it's like bang, there's this explosive kind of effort from everyone. Whereas really, you've just got this constant kind of momentum, year in, year out, month in, month out, which slowly keeps pushing people forwards. And it's not as influenced by these seasonal kind of marketing pushes, is it? It's kind of a constant message, a constant approach. There's tweaks here and there when you need it. And I suppose for a lot of people, they find quite
exactly. So that was like that. That's why I asked that question, Paul, because your question was like, you know, are your members asking this, and are they asking about these fad things that are out there because of the time of year that it is? And James's response is no, because they've been with him a while, and you know, they kind of know to look beyond that. But that was, you know, that wouldn't have always been the case. Maybe it is with some of them, but the vast majority of people, I'm generalizing again, but the vast majority of people want something very quickly. So that was why I asked James, it's like, how long has that taken? You know, because it doesn't happen in a month. It happens, you know, he's had members for for 13 years, haven't you? So, you know, it takes sometimes a year or two just to get someone's mind to change, because they'll be busy doing something.
Well, that's the critical thing this time of year, and it's a question for you, Peter. You know, you have this captive audience in the beginning of the year. So how do you gain their trust?
By what we've just said, by just being there all the time. It's not about come and do my 28-day program because now we're on lockdown. So 28 days is perfect because we're locked down for at least 6 weeks. I mean, you've got a 28-day program, Paul. James usually has something like that, but he said he's not really targeting new people at the moment. But it's like, you know, just you can try that now, but there's something beyond that as well. You can do it now and you'll get some results, and then you can finish after that, and that's great. But what are you going to do beyond it? What's the next step?
Yeah.
So it's just being what's the word?
I think the word is consistent, and we
Consistent,
use
yes, that's the word.
all
That's
the
what I was
time.
looking for.
We use it all the time, and I use it all the time with my members, and we use it all the time on this podcast. But it's being consistent. It's not, if every week someone turned up to see Peter or turned up to see you, Paul, or turned up to see me, I said, right, this week we're going to be doing, mini trampoline bouncing, this week. And then next week we're going to be doing skipping. And the week after we're going to be doing Zumba. And the week after we're going to be doing this. And if you were jumping around all over the place, or you were putting people on a different diet every month of the year, you were promoting something different. But because we're kind of, I mean this in the nicest possible way, boring, and
that's it though. That's a key word, isn't it?
Yeah. It's just being steady,
There's nothing more entertaining than progress.
Here's a funny thing though. So when you're talking about like new people in January and that, January isn't my busiest month for getting new people in because I train outside. Not at the moment, obviously, but we'll train outside. So January's not my busiest month for getting new people because people don't want to, and gyms are like, hammering at them all the time. And it's usually in summer. But with the boringness of training, during the winter months, because we're outside, we tend to do a lot more moving around and like using kettlebells a lot and stuff like that. So a lot of swings and maybe some snatches and a lot of stuff like that, if people know what they are. But it's basically kind of cardio with weights, but to keep the warmth because everyone's cold. And if you're doing like grinds and if you're doing lots of strength stuff and all that, and you're freezing cold, there's more chance of injury, right? So we tend to then, once it gets to spring, we'll start to incorporate that more in. So there's actually a seasonal effect which comes in. And then over summer, we do less of that sort of stuff because it's bloody hot and people get sweaty. So we end up doing a lot more of the grinds, a lot more stuff getting on the floor and a lot more mobility work.
I like that. I never thought about it like that. Good.
So it's the same but different thing that we're going about a lot as well. And it doesn't seem like there's any variation, but there is. And it all feeds everything else. The more mobility you got, the easier it is to become stronger. The fitter you are, the easier it is to last a whole session. And it all feeds, and the stronger you are, the easier it is to become fit. And that all adds into life as well. And the easier it is to go and do the things that you want to do. So that's the consistency thing. And then you get people going like, because I've had that, each session's different. And it is, but it isn't as well, because it's very similar.
Yeah.
And then people get the progress and they go like, oh, I couldn't do that a year ago. And it's like, well, there you go. And that's what you get from the consistency.
I think the thing is people underestimate what they can do in a year and overestimate what they can do in a month,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
And I think, like you were saying there, the consistency, I suppose, really then is not necessarily the and I didn't mean, every session is the same 52 weeks a year, but the principles and the philosophy behind what we do is consistent. That doesn't really change. But that's a really interesting way of you explaining for the outdoor training 12 months a year. It almost is like a natural form of, periodization throughout the year, based on, the seasons and the weather and that sort of things. That's really interesting. I love that.
Yeah, no, I never thought about it like that. I mean, I think that's it's funny how, and that's what I like about this podcast. I get to learn some new stuff. But so I mean, the thing is we're quite secure in our knowledge, and I think we're old enough, we've been doing it long enough to trust that we are on the right path. We have also invested in our education quite a lot. We've got a bit of life experience because none of us are, in our 20s. So, we also know what it's like to have responsibilities and things like that. And that can inform the way we work with people. But we've also invested in our education with some reputable businesses, reputable providers. But there's also going to be new trainers coming onto the scene who maybe aren't as confident in their beliefs. And that's, I would say, where it's not to say they wouldn't be great trainers. You never know who's going to be great. But it also means they may not be confident enough to stick by their guns and say, what we're doing is going to work and it is sufficient and you've just got to stick with it. And I know that maybe you want to be doing the trampolining. I mean, some people do come to me and they like saying, what I love is just total variety. And that is fine, but total variety gets completely random results. And, I mean, look, we all know that if you did deadlifts, bench press, squats for a year, you're going to have a really linear progress, give or take. But none of us offer that kind of consistency, do we? We offer a little bit more variety in terms of that. But I think what happens at this time of year is businesses that aren't actually fitness professionals and it's not to say we don't have bottom line. I want to make some money because I've got to pay all the bills, but I am in it because it's passion as well. But there are massive industries that sell protein supplements, that sell pills, that sell magazines, and where their first focus is exposure and scale, as opposed to the wellness of the individual. So what are you guys seeing at the moment, and what kind of messages do you think we need to be sending as an industry to counteract some of these mass marketing messages?
Well, I'll start with this one because I got a few things written down from what James said as well. But it's funny because to not answer your question, I hardly see any of this stuff because I don't like it doesn't get put in front of me, or it does, but I've seen enough of it that I don't even see it anymore. Right. I just, it's like people who walk into the supermarket straight past, they go, I don't eat much fruit and veg and all that. I can never find it. And it's like, it's every supermarket you walk in, it's the first thing. So they've got to walk straight past it. It's not because they don't know it's there. They just go straight past it. Whereas I walk straight past all the freezer aisles and all that, and I don't even notice that they're there. But anyway, what I would say the message to get across is, and this is what I was going to say when just after what James had said, was a lot of the things that are out there right now advertising to people are big gestures, like do this and you'll get this by the end of the month. Massive, huge gestures, a huge amount of effort and a huge gesture, and then you get everything you'll ever want. Whereas if it's a new year and people are getting started, even if you already know what you're doing, I do this every year and then I get started again in the new year. I'm like, right, where am I at right now? And what do I need to improve? And where do I go from? And then we'll go back to starting small, forming habits and mastering the basics. And then build upon that. And then by December, you can review it and say, what did I do? What worked? What didn't work? What did I learn? And then again, the next January, start again. But you'll be starting from, so I do this all the time on here as well. And if you're not watching on YouTube or whatever, you won't see it. But like you start from a lower level and then you build. And then in the next December, you're at a higher level. So then you're building from a higher level. So each year you progress without having to do a huge gesture. So that's the consistency thing again. Yeah. So that's my little.
That ties in really well. There's I remember just sort of building upon that point that Peter was talking about. There was I think Dan John once said someone will come up to him and say, just tell me what I need to do and I'll do it. Give me the program, tell me what to eat and I'll follow it, and then I'm going to get these results. And then the first thing is that he might say is, well, what I want you to do is drink 3 extra glasses of water a day for the next 14 days, and then he'll phone them after the first day and say, have you done it? And they'll be, no, he'll hear them running and getting a glass of water and drinking it again. It's not about most people, like you said, one of your things you said as well, Paul, was, most people, I think the Tony Robbins one that he says is, most people massively overestimate what they can do in a month or a year, but massively underestimate what they can do in a decade, in terms of totally changing their life. But that kind of idea, most people massively overestimate the amount of discipline and resolve and willpower that they actually have. So and these things like Peter said that are quite extreme, that will be, things like detoxes and stuff that come out every January. It's not easy to keep to that sort of, not even if it was good, a good idea, it's not easy for most people to keep to this sort of thing. It's the small things and that's what I'm finding with my members with, well, what do you want to do? I just want to make sure that I drink 6 glasses of water a day. Okay, let's start with that. And that is it. And if you do that for a week, then that's a massive achievement, and again, like similar to Peter, I don't see a lot of stuff out there now. I don't go to supermarkets, so I don't see the any kind of stuff, products and things like that. And I think it's probably the place I would see things is more on social media, probably from other fitness professionals and stuff coming out. And I see, and again, but then again, a lot of the things that I see, I've filtered my life now so that a lot of the people that I'm friends with on those platforms are kind of fairly similar minded to me, so I don't tend to see sort of crazy stuff going out there. You occasionally get the adverts come up, but
that's the thing about social media is you can kind of curate. It can work both positively and negatively. You can curate a very healthy environment, or you can create an environment where you silence other valuable viewpoints, and obviously with the algorithms of social media, I get some crazy adverts and I don't even know what I've looked at.
You must have been...
That'll be the search history.
Some interesting shaving equipment.
I keep showing Sean. I got a friend request the other day on Instagram, and I was like, "She looks very friendly, doesn't she?" And Sean's like, "Dick now."
But I would just while you guys are talking, I was just searching. It reminded me. I mean, I know James, you've spoken of Stephen Covey in the past, and I've got a CD that we've got a CD player in the car. One of the CDs is a Stephen Covey CD, so it's kind of in there and out. I've only got about 7 CDs in the car because I can't be bothered to kind of bring some new ones in. We don't use the car that often, so this one's on play quite a lot. But there's this thing that he goes on about, which is the character ethic, and I've just brought up a little thing which I'll read, which is the character ethic is the idea that a person advances in the basis of their character. It depends on deep changes within each of us, whilst the personality ethic falls back on methods and techniques. The personality ethic does not challenge us, neither does it bring us deep changes. And I think what we tend to see are products when in the new year, they're products to buy. And we often get caught up, particularly as trainers, particularly when we're new, talking about modalities, talking about techniques, talking about tools and things like that. And they're just an expression, as we all know, of principles. Principles guide all those things. And it's really difficult to sell principles because principles take the individual. They require the individual to have bought into something bigger than the product. And when you buy a fat loss pill or you buy a piece of equipment, you're not really buying a change in character.
It's a one shot, isn't it? It's like, Bosch, there you go. You've got it now. Yeah. And you're not going to buy that again until next year.
I think all of us are trying to actually find ways of marketing in a way that character ethic, in a way that people respond to in a market that's dominated by other advertising means, So I know that when I pop up, my Facebook ads pop up on Facebook, I know that in some way I'm going to be competing against very different messaging, but I've got to appeal in the same way. Because if I pretend that I'm not competing in that environment, they won't look at my adverts. They won't look at my message. But once I've got them on the phone call, I hope that I can then try and convince them that I have an approach that will be beneficial. And that does mean I am fully committed to playing the game that I need to play in order to get someone's attention to then take them on the route which I think is better.
Yeah,
it's funny actually because we were just talking about this before we got started, before James came in actually, before when we said we were booting you out. Before that we were talking about, and I don't really run Facebook adverts and stuff anymore. One, because it was just annoying me because they change it all the time, but also I'm starting to use the like we've just been talking about, the character thing, okay, and the values that I kind of live by, and that I don't try and instill into people, but I just try and use as an example of like, here's what you get if you do these sorts of things, and just putting stuff out there. Like I did a video yesterday, just doing like live videos while I'm out walking the dog and stuff like that. And it's like, look, man, we're normal people who just happen to know a little bit more than you do about how to do this stuff, and we're not trying We're not trying to sell you on quick fixes, and we're not trying to rip you off, and we're not trying to make as much money as possible as fast as possible so we can go and like retire on a beach somewhere. We're going to be doing this in 20, 30 years time because we love doing it. And if we're not doing it in 20 years, 30 years time, it's because we stopped enjoying doing it for whatever reason, which is also fine. But it's just being there all the time. And that's why, like, adverts, I mean, I used to get a lot of crap on my adverts as well, honestly. I don't know why, but I used to get so many like negative, horrible, like really personal, horrible comments as well. And I'd be like, you know, I'd take them all right. And I'd be like, okay, you sound like an angry person. And then like, I'd get people telling me to F off on my post. I'm like, you're telling me, you know, I'm not going into someone's house and going, get out. And it's like, it's my place. No, you get out. You know what I mean? And also what Paul was saying about the thing about, and what we were saying about, I don't see that stuff anymore necessarily on Facebook. But on the flip side of that, people who are seeing this stuff and then clicking on it and going, like, I wonder what that is. That then, the way the algorithms work, to my knowledge, is that if you've clicked on that, it'll then go, right, you're interested in that. And it'll start showing you more stuff like that. And then it becomes self-fulfilling. So if you're clicking on fat loss pills or whatever it is, they're going to start showing you more stuff. Like, oh, if you like fat loss pills, you're going to like this HIIT insanity workout, and you're going to like this, and you're going to like this, and you're going to want this program that'll get you lean in 20 seconds. And so this is when like people have got to kind of realize, like, why am I seeing all this? And they don't see the flip side of it because they haven't shown any interest in that. They might be interested in it, but because they haven't shown interest in it on Facebook, Facebook then hides it from them, and well, it doesn't necessarily hide it from them, but it just puts it down the priority list. It's not just Facebook as well. It's like pretty much social media. So that's what frightens me about it as well, because then it's basically just who spends the most gets in front of the most people. And that's quite scary because obviously people like us haven't got that money to spend because we're not a big corporation.
So very similar to what to what Paul was mentioning just then, with the Stephen Covey stuff. I just was flicking through because I shared a post, I think on New Year's Day, from again James Clear, who we mentioned a lot on this podcast before. But it was a really interesting post that he did, and it was all around character and identity. And he kind of said, improvements are only temporary until they become part of who you are. The goal is not to read a book. The goal is to become a reader. Or the goal is not to run a marathon. The goal is to become a runner. The goal is not to learn an instrument. The goal is to become a musician. And then he said, this year, focus on the identity that you want to build. So it's very much, we spoke about this before, haven't we, as well, you know, about actually becoming someone who does this, becomes your identity. This becomes part of your character. This becomes part of your lifestyle. And then that's why we can train, 52 weeks a year. We can, stay fairly consistently 52 weeks a year on, year out, because it is actually now who we are.
Yeah, exactly. You're not trying to not be yourself.
Yeah, we're not trying to play a game. We're not trying to play a role. We're not trying to put an act on. We're not trying to, do something for the sake of marketing. It is who we are, and we're talking very openly and very genuinely about that. And I think that's why, and people will become either attracted to that or repelled away from that. And if they're repelled away from that, then that's fine, because they're not the people that we want anyway. If they're attracted to it, then they're the kind of people we want, and they probably share values and things like that with us, and will fit in well. So that's great.
Funny. I mean, I don't actively seek out kind of a lot of these things like you, Peter, but what I have noticed is that as soon as I look at something sports related on Instagram, if I go to the search, I get some crazy stuff. And actually, I'm sure you guys get this. I used to get, about 8 years ago, Mike Chang, who did six-pack shortcuts.
Six-pack shortcuts.
And he was always eating. And he was saying...
I've not seen him for ages, actually.
I think he sold his YouTube channel to someone else. And there's this guy now he's kind of a model-esque guy. He's a good-looking guy. He's got a decent body. And he's always got a pizza there, and he's saying, and a salad. And he's always saying, I know which one I need to eat in order to lose weight. And obviously it's the pizza, because he's eating according to body types, like
it's something like V-Shred or something.
V-Shreds, that's it.
V-Shred,
yeah.
Oh, no, I think I've seen him.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, and then I obviously have because it just comes up before any videos I watch. Oh, you're into kettlebells. Bang, V-Shreds comes up. And
again, that's the targeted, that's the targeted advertising, isn't it? Depending upon what you're watching. Yeah.
He's targeting the wrong people in that case. If he's talking to
thing though is he's got, I mean, whatever it is, there's a marketing machine, there's a budget behind him. You know, I have looked at his videos because I thought, well, I'm seeing them all the time. I see what this guy's about. And there is an entire video where he recites pretty much word for word, what Athlete X says.
Oh, yeah.
So he basically takes some of the older videos that were done by Athlete X and just regurgitates them and does them himself. But he doesn't seem to understand in that much detail the actual mechanics of what he's talking about.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of that about. There's a lot of people who look at something and then just go and regurgitate it without knowing.
Because it's an industry of opinion as much as fact, isn't it? You know, we've all got a friend who's done something who says it works for them, and I think what I found, particularly when I started, is it wasn't until I came across people such as Pavel and, you know, that crew, because, I mean, what do we call it? We call it idea laundering, right? Where you can, and it works well in certain things, and it can be working negatively. What like the certain demographics do really well, like Strong First and the RKC, these really, really well put together kettlebell instructor certifications, is that they will self-reference each other and they create an ecosystem of knowledge. And that was very useful for me because I would have Pavel quoting Paul McElroy, quoting Mark Rifkind, who was quoting his wife, who was quoting all these really great people. But on the same side, you can get ecosystems where people are quoting each other and they're all quoting misinformation.
Yeah.
And you end up going on a path of misinformation. I was very lucky that I somehow got into the slipstream of good information, and it was good information because it worked, you know, and it worked for a long time, and it put me in touch with people who knew their stuff. But I can imagine if I went in the wrong direction.
I'm not sure about that with you, or with any of us, because if you got into it, like you're saying, you got into the slipstream of good information. I think what you've probably done is just gone through and been like, right, which is exactly what I did. He looks like he knows what he's talking about. She looks like she knows what she's talking about. They look like they know what they're talking about. And then you go, actually, you get to a point, you go, right, well, actually, they don't, I thought they knew what they were talking about, but they're just like, what are they actually saying and where they get it from? And then you can see behind, it's like looking behind someone's eyes, isn't it? They're saying something, but they don't know what they mean. They're just regurgitating stuff, and then you can't actually get any substance out of it. Where you get other people, they'll say something, then they'll say it in a different way, then in a different way, the same thing over and over again, but in a different way, slightly different way. And it's like, actually, they're not veering off the path that they're talking about. They're not up here, over there, down there, use this, do that. They're like, no, do this consistently and you'll get what you want. And obviously there will be some veering off here and there, but as long as they're going in the right direction and they've got the same kind of character and message, which is what like the RKC and Strong First and what's his name, Tim Anderson, original strength and all of that. Whether you agree with any of it or not doesn't matter, because it works if you follow it, and it works if that's what you want, and you'll get what you want because it's consistent. And everything they put out is consistent with what they've put out before.
Yeah, I would agree with that way of putting it. I think that's quite a concise way of thinking about it.
Because as well, once
you were ready to see it as well, and so was I. If you're not, and you're just out there collecting information, you'll absorb everything. But then eventually you start to get to the point where you go, right, you become a bit more discerning, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
And I think once you're within a peer group that you know, like, and trust, and you also have mentors and things, when people within that group that you trust then maybe, like you say, reference or recommend someone else, you then go and look at them, and you know that you're all coming from the same, I suppose it's principles again, isn't it? You know that you're coming from the same kind of place. And and you know, if you know, like, and trust a peer group and someone recommends, have you read this book? You'll go and have a look at that book or watch this and things. And it kind of, and it can be all very high quality, but and slightly veer off and branch off in different directions. But at its core, it's got the kind of the principles and the I suppose the intent behind it is pure. If you want to say that,
I mean, but I suppose what that does say, actually, what we have with people is a great sense of responsibility to not take advantage of that goodwill, because when I got someone who works with me, they put a lot of goodwill into it. Yes, they paid for it and all that, but they're saying, okay, I am going to go and trust you for this month. And some people that you can really run with that goodwill, but other people you can tell they've been burnt, and you've got to work really hard, and they want to trust you, they want it to work, but I think they've been burnt so many times by things that have failed them, and at times maybe they failed themselves, whatever reason, but it's going to take longer for them to convince. And my only downside to my 28-day program is sometimes I don't think that's enough time for me to convince. I'd like to be able to think I could convince someone to go in a different direction in 28 days. But I think if someone's been burnt by poor advice in the past, or been yo-yoing particularly, which is a big problem that most of us probably deal with, people go up and down, stop, start, then they can be very tentative and not be completely, not committed. But like you say, they're not invested completely in success, and that sometimes can take longer than the quick fixes out there.
Excellent. I think this has been really interesting, actually, and hopefully people are listening to this kind of, like you say, 2 weeks into the new year, and maybe they've had a go at setting a few resolutions. Maybe they've had a week or two of, looking at things, reading, watching, trying some things out, and hopefully maybe this has come at a good time for some people where, again, it will just cause them to stop for a minute and reflect and think and sort of digest some of the stuff we're saying, and maybe it will set them on a path, forwards from here, and realize that it's not all about what happens in the first 2 weeks in January. It's really what happens, in October, November down the line, when you've got nearly a whole year of doing stuff behind you. So it's been fantastic.
So I'm going to leave us on a couple of questions for you guys. In the past, have you ever been susceptible to a crazy marketing thing and bought into it? So I'll start. I bought into Slim Fast. I did Slim Fast for 3 months. I ate 2 shakes a day, a tomato, and I was so hungry I was eating lettuce in the evening in order to keep myself sane. I lost quite a bit of weight on that, but felt awful. And I did that when I was 22 in order to lose some weight, because I was really desperate to do that. For whatever reason, I put some weight on over university due to excessive drinking. But that's, I've done quite a few stupid kind of things. And that was one of them, I don't say stupid, but I mean, it's just, when looking back, it was not a good route to the outcome I wanted. What about you, James?
I think, I mean, I remember being when I was, it's kind of the opposite. When you're young, when you're in your teens and stuff, I used to struggle to, to put on weight, and then you get to like your 40s and
Yeah, I know, really.
and it's again kind of the other way around. But all the usual sort of stuff, where used to be, in my teens reading like Flex magazine and buying these like protein shakes and following these massive, trying to follow these massive training programs from Mr. Olympia and all this sort of thing,
Yeah.
As 15, 16 years old, training in your bedroom, drinking multiple protein shakes and training. And you don't obviously realize at the time, it's a lot of it takes a huge amount, we won't even get into that. Drugs or no drugs, to get into the, to put that much size on. These guys are training for 20 years. Plus, but it's I think everyone's susceptible when you're not happy about something within yourself, externally or whatever. It's very easy to be manipulated and sold to. So yes, I have, and that's an example, probably one of about 20 examples in my life.
I know, I'm trying to think of the other ones I did. What about you, Peter?
For me, I don't know about a product or anything, but it was like just kind of ways of doing stuff. And I was a cardio junkie. I was doing everything to try and burn as many calories as possible so I could eat what I liked. and I spoke about this when I did when we did the one about me. It was but yeah, I was doing half marathons and everything. I ended up getting down to, I'm about, what am I now, 11 and a half stone or something. I got down to 9 stone.
Wow.
Right, there's nothing on me now, right? I got down to 9. I think, no, was it? It was either 9 or 9.5 stone. I can't remember. And I looked like a lollipop. I had like a huge head. It was ridiculous, and I just looked ill. And that, at that point, actually, that was my wife at the time and my brother and everything were really worried about me. They were like, "What's going on with you?" And I was like, "Oh, I feel great," and I didn't. And I look at myself now, and it's horrible. But yeah. But I was like, I was like, "Oh, look, my jeans have got bigger and all of this," and I thought it was what I wanted, to lose as much weight as possible and be skinny. When actually I realized, like, nah, that's not what I want. I just want to be strong.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. So that's three of us for three very different things. Obviously, yourself, Paul, the slim, fast shape.
Oh, we've lost him.
Oh no, he's gone. Oh,
and he was going to say something very, very interesting as well. So,
right, Paul, do a dance or something, and we'll try and get him back. Well, before James comes back, what I want to say is there's a couple of things I've written down. Hopefully he comes back. There's a couple of things I've written down. There's a guy who said to me, somebody had said this to him, and I don't know. There's all these cliches out there that I don't particularly like using, but if they resonate with people, they resonate with people. And this one resonated with him, and you'll have heard this before, Paul, about this time of year. It's not what you do between Christmas and New Year that you need to worry about. It's what you do between New Year and Christmas. Yes. So that's like, being consistent throughout the year. That sort of stuff. So, yeah. That's thrown us a bit, hasn't it?
I mean, that's it. It's like competition prep. You've got to be able to deal with all the things that could go wrong.
Yeah.
So you're not phased.
Yeah, exactly. So
it's all about some jokes that we could pull out of the bag if we need to.
He's back.
We've been saved from the jokes. James is back.
We didn't put you out there, mate. That wasn't us.
No, that was my laptop in the garden. It ran out of juice. I thought I was just going to get through it, but yeah, sorry about that.
You were going to say it got too cold.
Yeah.
Anyway, what were you saying? We've just been we've been keeping them entertained while you
gems of knowledge that we've been dropping.
No, what I was going to say was it's really interesting. So there's three of us all kind of know what we're doing, but we all kind of went for three different sort of examples of very practical things that people are still very sure that people are still doing at the moment. With Paul doing the slim fast thing and the kind of severely restricting calories. Myself trying to get bigger as a young guy, and then yourself, Peter, doing the kind of the over the top cardio stuff. So and that was, well, for me, I'm talking about over 20 years ago. For you mentioned early 20s, didn't you?
Yeah, 22.
Yeah. And how old were you when you were doing all the half marathons and stuff?
2007, I did my first half marathon. What were you?
Yeah, so nearly 15 years ago.
Early 30s.
Yeah, so that's all, and it's all so relevant still today, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? It's still there, exactly the same things that people are doing today. So no, that's just...
And exactly the same things still work that people were doing in 1950s,
Yeah.
Separate calories, calorie deficits, whatever it is, weight training, plenty of sleep. Those things are universal. And I think our job is to keep that at the forefront, that the things that work. We've just got to get people in a state of mind to do them consistently.
This is one of the things, and this works with medicine and therapies and stuff like that as well, is what people were doing years ago, like 100 years ago, the old-time strongmen and all that. They might not have been able to explain the science behind it, but they just knew it worked, right? They were like, you do this, you get this. Why? Don't know, but just do it, and it works. Yeah. Now, we're going to explain more of this stuff, so people get all tied up in what's the science behind that and why does it work? And it's like, why don't you just do it and find out? Right. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. If it does work, it's tried and tested. People have been doing it for like hundreds of years. So it's fine. So
that's it. People will quote scientific papers on whether or not, you need to rest 4 minutes between something or 10 minutes between something, or you need to be doing barbells or kettlebells or whatever. Just do something consistently. Forget about too much. Anyway, I'm aware of the time, guys.
Yeah.
So I thought it was a great chat. I really enjoyed it. Loads of stuff that I've taken out of it. Thanks for everyone listening. As I mentioned at the beginning, please do subscribe to Health Oddity on whatever platform you're listening on. It does help us out because then we can go up the rankings and more people will hear about what we're saying. We're going to obviously get some more guests on. We've got some more great guests lined up, and we'll let you know about those in due course. But for now, thanks for listening. Have a great new year. Reach out if you need any help over this third lockdown. We're here if you need us. James, say goodbye.
Goodbye.
And Peter, please say goodbye.
Ta-ra!
Take care, guys.
You've been listening to Health Odyssey with Peter Lant, Paul Bassett, and James St. Pierre. To get your regular fix of hype-free health, you can subscribe and leave a review wherever you get your favorite podcasts. You can find out more on today's and other topics at healthodyssey.com or find us on Facebook or Instagram by searching for Health Odyssey.